Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head down to Slovenia once again, and we're going to revisit a brewery who you've seen me review a good few beers from over the last little while, and that was thank you to Rojnik, who is actually the owner of this brewery and saw my previous reviews and wanted me to review the other stuff that he does as well. So for this review then we are going to go to the Savinja Valley, which is halfway between the capital Ljubljana in the centre of the country and Maribor, the second city up in the northeast, and we're going to have a look at another beer from Green Gold Brewing. This one comes in at 4.2% ABV, and it is the Hop Princess, which is a lager beer. So yeah, really looking forward to this one. The thing that I've told you about this brewery that's a bit of a novelty is that it evolved out of a hop farm, and you know, Slovenian hops, some of the lower alpha acid ones are quite widely used in different lagers and things, but they're starting to get higher alpha acid hops now, which are very good. The Styrian Wolf, the Styrian Fox and the Styrian Dragon, you know, these ones are really interesting to try actually, and a lot of the IPAs that these guys are producing use those as well. But to go back to something like this, which is a more kind of classic style, a lager beer, I think will be very interesting. So this one has Salaya, Aurora and Bobek in it, so a completely Slovenian hopped lager beer actually. So yeah, let's see how we get on with this one. This is one that I'm very curious about because I've always been of the opinion that the lager beers are very underrated. It's all about the IPAs these days, of course, but you know, I do enjoy a nice kind of Pilsner lager type beer every so often. So yeah, so let's see how we get on with this one then. Very much looking forward to it. As always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Green Gold Brewing before. No doubt you will see some more from these guys at some point in the future. There's all the usual social media down there as well. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Slovenian beers that I've reviewed for you. That's being added to whenever I get the opportunity. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Green Gold Brewing then, on to my brewery notes. So Green Gold Brewing, as I've told you before, is owned by Rojnik, and his family have been growing hops for generations on the family farm in the Savinja Valley. This farm has 41 acres of land, and apparently it's one of the largest hop farms in Europe, and it can be found to the west of Celia and is part of the town which is called September w Savinjski Dolini, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Probably not. But the family farm started about 120 years ago, and it's produced various different Slovenian hop varieties: Aurora, Bobek, Salaya, Styrian Golding, Styrian Wolf, Styrian Fox, to name but a few, and you know, various others. You know, I can't even think how many different Slovenian hops there are these days. But they started brewing back in July of 2016. They had their premiere at the Sir William's pub in Ljubljana, and it just really went very well for them. They started off with a small 500 litre brewery, but they've scaled up considerably since then, and they installed a canning line in 2018, and these days they're producing around 2,700 hectolitres of beer, and they've produced around 20 different kinds of beer so far, according to Untappd. So yeah, as I say, quite a unique story behind this brewery, the fact that it evolved out of a hop farm, and you know, that's the thing with Slovenian hops. As I say, in my experience, the Slovenian hops are really pretty damn good, but they're just not as well known about. I mean, Bobek, Salaya, and things like that, the Styrian Goldings, these are all, you know, really these are quite well known for their use in different lager beers and things like that, but the other ones, the higher alpha acid ones, are newer on the scene and are really underappreciated actually. The beers that I've tried from these guys really have taught me a lot about them. That's why I like to treat these videos as a kind of learning experience for me as well. You know, the Slovenian hops, it's a shame that they are only produced on quite a small scale relative to other things, of course, but you know, trying beers like this from Green Gold is very unique. But you've got a great standard of craft beer in Slovenia these days. You've got Reservoir Dogs, Pellets On, Tectonic, Lobik, I'm trying to think of what the other ones I've tried are, but then yeah, these guys as well. There's a really good standard of craft beer in Slovenia. It's a little country of about just over 2 million people, and they've got some great beer. They're more known for their wine, right enough, and it does seem to be a bit of a rule in Europe that wine, the countries that do well with wine tend to do very well when they turn their hand to craft beer, and Slovenia seems to be no exception to that rule. Greece, Italy, Spain and Portugal I think also show that that's pretty good. The French craft beers are great as well in my experience. So yeah, if you get the chance, go down to Slovenia, have a little look. It's supposed to be a beautiful country. I still need to get down there, and I'm sure I'll meet up with Luca at some point there as well. And of course Davor, who was the original guy, he found my first ever Slovenian beer review that I did, and has followed the channel pretty religiously since then. But yeah, Slovenia, great little place, and I do hope to get down there and visit, hopefully maybe in sort of spring next year or something like that. We'll just need to see. So yeah, that's all you really need to know about Green Gold Brewing for the moment. If you want to learn more, of course, you can check out the brewery website in the description below. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and of course you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's get on to the actual tasting itself then. So like I said to you, this one is a 4.2% lager beer. I do have to admit, I think calling this Hop Princess, everyone really thinks, oh, hops, as in, IPAs and stuff like this. So it's a bit unusual that they've got a lager that's called a Hop Princess. But as I say, 4.2%. This one is hopped with Salaya, Aurora and Bobek. Just to tell you a little bit about the hops then, in my notes here it says the Aurora, of course, all three of these are Slovenian, but this one is bred from Northern Brewer and another Slovenian hop. It gives you a spicy kind of floral bittering quality. It can come in between 7 and 12% alpha acid. The Bobek is another Slovenian hop, of course, bred from Northern Brewer, and they've got, I think it was a Slovenian wild male that they used. This one's supposed to give you some piney notes, quite a floral note, and also a good bit of citrusy character. It's between 3 and 9% alpha acid. Salaya, which apparently is also known as the Styrian Golding, is bred from Aurora, Styrian Goldings and another Slovenian male, and it's supposed to give you very citrusy and herbal kind of notes. That one comes in between 4 and 7% alpha acid. So yeah, this should be a really interesting one. This I've had different Pilsner beers and things like that, and I do think, when it comes to lager beers, you could do so much with using, I had a beautiful Citra Pils from a brewery called Munich Brew Mafia. I think it was the Don Limon it was called. I had a beautiful Citra Pils in Munich, and I wish that other breweries would start doing that, start experimenting with the high alpha acid hops in lager beers. I mean, a Styrian Wolf, Styrian Dragon, Styrian Fox, it would be really interesting to try those in lager beers and see how they turn out. I really think the lager beers are very kind of are underrated, to be honest with you. So yeah, as you can see with this one, and as you would expect from a lager beer, this one's poured a lovely kind of hazy golden straw colour. You can see there's a solid 2/3 finger of a frothy white head on this one. I would say it's definitely pure white rather than creamy. 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass. There are a few wee bits of sediment kind of sitting in the bottom there, and you can see the bubbles just going up towards the bottom of that head there. But overall it looks pretty damn nice, I have to say. So yeah, this looks good. So let's have a closer look at the aroma then and see how we get on. There's nothing particularly surprising about this beer in terms of its appearance. Yeah, it smells quite nice. It really smells quite ale-like, to be honest with you. I mean, you pick up, you do get that nice you do get a good bit of a bready kind of pale malty note out of this one. It almost smells a little bit like thicker, like Munich malt or something like that. And I'm guessing that probably Slovenia does have its own malteries and things like that. I'm not sure where they'll source their malt from, but the most likely source, of course, is Germany. It's because it does definitely have some of that nice kind of breadiness to it. They could also be sourcing their malt from Austria, Vienna malt, I guess. So yeah, I mean, you've got a lovely kind of bready base to this one. There's a wee bit of a kind of biscuity quality in there, that McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing. Maybe a little teeny hint of a kind of butterscotchy diacetyl kind of thing. But yeah, it actually, in terms of its malt base, to me it smells a little bit more like a Helles rather than a kind of Pilsner beer. And I mean, maybe I'm saying I'm talking about lager beers. You know, the Pilsner is a lager beer, but the Helles, the Dunkel, the Schwarzbier, and you've also the Czechs have got their equivalents as well. The Svetli Letsak, Cherny and Tmavy. You know, you've got lots of different types of lager beers in there. So this one actually strikes me as smelling quite similar to like a Munich style Helles, because I always found the Helles a little bit more bready and thicker, if you like, than the Pilsner beer. You know, we always go back to that age-old Pilsner Urquell and things and compare it to the likes of the Paulaner, München Hell, and you know, the Hacker Shores, the other ones in there as well. So yeah, this one definitely comes across as more of a sort of Helles, a kind of Munich-y Helles type beer in a lot of ways, because it's got that big bready base and a little bit of the biscuity note as well. So yeah, we've got some really nice we've got a really nice sort of the hops on this are really are great actually. It's got a big herbal character to it in my mind. You do get a little bit of earthiness though, and it's quite a bright earthiness, but you get a nice kind of herbally sort of note out of it. You do get a good bit of a kind of floral aromaticity as well, and there's some lighter grassiness, but the green side of the hops on this one is really quite complex actually, and when you're using 3 different hops in a lager beer, which I don't think is all that common, to be honest. I think at most you would use 2, to be honest with you, but to use 3 different ones, the greens, and when it's low alpha acid hops as well, you can actually smell a hell of a lot of complexity just on the green side of the hops. The fruity side of it I think is pretty straight up. So the fruity side, you've got a bit of a kind of lemony note to it, not too kind of pungent or anything. Wee bit of a, yeah, you do have a wee bit of a kind of lemony quality in there, as I say. You've got a bit of a, you know, there's a bit of that kind of typical peary sort of thing, and the, you know, the kind of grassy citricy notes there. It's got everything you kind of expect of a sort of, you know, one of your more traditional kind of Hellesy, Pilsnery type beers. This one, but yeah, it does also have a wee tiny touch of a farmhousey type thing. There's one of the yeasts, I think, that Luca, I asked him what he thought of my first review that I did out of the new ones that he sent me, and he was saying that he thinks it's the way that some of the hops interact with the yeast that gives it a little touch of a farmhousey thing. And you know, you do almost smell just a little bit of that farmhousey kind of vegetally herbally kind of thing out of this. So I do wonder if maybe this is a mixed culture lager beer that he's using in here, a mixed culture yeast actually. I wouldn't be surprised if it is just going by the aroma, because they will have their own kind of house yeast strains and things like that. But yeah, the aroma, that is very interesting. Like I say, on the green side of things, a little bit of earthiness, good bit of herbal quality for me. You've got some nice kind of floral notes to it as well, and you've also got that little bit of lighter grassiness as you'd expect, and then the fruitiness in behind that we talked about earlier. So yeah, this one, it comes together, the aroma of this comes together really nicely. So yeah, let's have a taste of this one then and see how we get on. This is the Hop Princess, a 4.2% Helles, I think it's it looks like more of a Helles, but a 4.2% hoppy lager beer from Green Gold Brewing in Celje in the Savinja Valley in Slovenia. Big shout out to Davor once again, massive thank you to Luca Rojnik for this beer, and I hope you guys are enjoying some more Slovenian reviews. Let's get stuck in. Slanja, skol, na zdravje. Yeah, that is pretty nice actually. Yeah, it is definitely a bit more kind of Hellesy like than anything else. The yeast, it does taste a little bit more ale like, to be honest with you. I do suspect. I mean, they'll have their own house yeast strains, because you do taste a bit of consistency in these beers just with the way the yeast comes out in some of them. There is just a little touch of an almost farmhousey type thing to this beer, and that, you know, it's kind of interesting that, because it's a hop farm, it's not like an animal farm or whatever. So I mean, it's interesting that, because I think all types of farms used to brew these sort of farmhousey beers. But I like this. This gets a thumbs up from me. This is one of these beers, I think, you know, a 330ml can. This is me nitpicking now, but this is a beer that needs a half-litre can, because you would tan this absolutely. You would tan this easily. This is a beer I think that needs a 500ml can, to be honest. But yeah, I like that. As a lager beer, this one gets a thumbs up from me, and this is a style, as I say, that I quite enjoy. It makes me sad that more people aren't brewing lager beers and putting the high alpha acid hops and things and like that in it. Because I think, if you made a Styrian Wolf lager beer, that could be really, really interesting. The same, put the dragon in it, put the fox in it, and see how they turn out. Even the Casbah hop that I had, the Albi Casbah IPA, that would be really interesting in a sort of Pilsner style beer actually. But yeah, this one I think is a very nice lager beer actually. It does have a few more ale type qualities to it, so we'll try and break that down when we look at the flavour. So yeah, straight away with this one you can feel that nice kind of bready malt base, that blankets the middle of your palate. I think that's coming both from the malt that's in here and also from the yeasty side of things, so it comes from both sides of the coin. But yes, you can feel that nice kind of malty base to the beer. If you go towards the back of the palate, it is a little bit more kind of crisp, and as you move into the centre of the palate you get some of those kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity type notes to it. You can feel the beer sort of become a little bit more kind of grainy as you move out towards the side of the palate. I think it starts off in the middle and it's quite a smooth McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing, but then as you reach the edge of the palate and you go further back, you do start to get more of the kind of grainy things, and you can feel the breadiness just kind of thickening up a little bit as you move further forward on the tongue. So yeah, you can really feel that just kind of thickening up actually, which is nice. But on the hoppy side of things then, in the back corners of the palate you've got a nice little bit of earthiness in there. And the earthiness is a bit stronger in the flavour than it was in the actual, in the aroma definitely. But as you move further forward from that, it does get a little bit herbal. Definitely gets a little bit herbal there. I think, I can't remember which of the hops that was supposed to be, but yeah, there was one of them that was supposed to be a little bit more herbal. I think it might have been the Salaya actually that was supposed to be a bit more herbal. But yeah, you do get a bit of that more kind of herbal quality coming out of this one. As you reach the front corners of the palate you get a little bit of a spicy kind of floral aromatic note, and then round the very front curve of the palate you get a little bit of a lighter kind of grassy kind of thing in there as well. Behind the front curve of the palate, of course, that's where you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters push their way out of the beer. The fruitiness in this one is pretty straight up. I mean, you do get that a bit of that kind of lemony citric type thing which you expect from these type hops. But as you move further forward on the palate, you get the kind of lighter, kind of grassy, citricy notes, and you also get a wee bit of a, as I say, you also get a little bit of that, how would you say, that kind of almost pear-like, peary type ester coming out of this beer, so yeah. But yeah, definitely the more you drink of this, the more kind of peary and light it sort of becomes. But I like you do feel more of the earthiness pushing its way out on the back sides of the palate, and more of the herbal qualities kind of sitting there. And as I say, you get a little bit of that kind of farmhousey, woody, herbally type thing. That comes out more towards the back of the palate from the yeasty part of the beer as well, which is quite interesting. So that all kind of goes together really quite nicely. I would say overall, it is definitely more like it is really more like a kind of Helles than it is anything else in terms of the lager sort of umbrella category, if you like. So yeah, it really is. It's like a farmhousey lager beer. This one, it really is. It has some of the same characteristics that some of the IPAs have, just that slightly farmhousey type yeast. I'm sure that Lucas said to me that it was a Lallemand. They were using a Lallemand yeast along with something else. If I'm remembering the conversation right, I'm sure he mentioned something about Lallemand, which is a Vermont yeast strain. So I wonder if it's a mixed culture between a lager yeast and a bit of Lallemand, because it really does taste a little bit like that kind of farmhousey, alchemist, heady toppery type thing. There's a little bit of that towards the back of the palate, you know, the grainy, woody, sort of peppery, spicy type thing. Pardon me. So that's another interesting point about this beer. Definitely it has a little bit of an ale character to it. but further forward on the palate and with all the other things going on, it really has quite a nice, it really has everything else you'd expect of the lager. I like the complexity to the green side of the hops in this one. Like I say, light and grassy at the front. As you move around, a little bit more kind of floral and spicy. You can feel different layers to the kind of floral qualities as well, but then as you get towards the back of the palate, it's more herbally, and you get a bit of the earthiness too. So it's a really quite interesting beer, this one, I have to say. Thumbs up to Green Gold Brewing for this. I like beers that make me think, and this one certainly does that. Mouthfeel wise, you know, it is a little bit thicker than some of the lager beers and stuff you are going to come across in certain places. I'd say it's quite a mid-bodied beer, this one, at the bottom end of mid-bodied. Carbonation does have a degree of crispness to it. There's an element of oiliness to this beer as well, but mainly it is quite wet. In terms of hoppy bitterness, I think you're looking about 25 IBUs for this one. I don't think it's quite 30, which is you know, the equivalent of Pilsner Urquell. I think it might be 20. I think it is 25, just a little bit less. But you've also got you know, the malt base, like I say, it's quite smooth, has a little bit of sweetness to it in the centre of the palate. The sweetness dies away and it becomes a bit more bready and things, the more you're involved in the side of it. But yeah, it's quite nice how this goes together. There's a little touch of sweetness, but mainly quite a smooth kind of malty base to it, and the hoppy bitterness just kind of lingers there on the sides of the palate too. There's a wee touch of fruitiness to this one, which is quite nice. So yeah, I like how this one goes together. It's nicely done. It's different. You know, all the beers that I've reviewed so far from these guys have been IPAs, bar the Oil Wars, of course, which was just a monster of an imperial stout. But I like this one. I like the little farmhousey element that it has, and I like the complexity to the green side of things. I'd love to see them brew a few more lagers with the other. With the bigger Slovenian hops, if you like, the Fox, the Dragon, and the Wolf. That would be a really interesting thing for them to do. But you know, look at, he might well do that in the future. I think that could be an interesting thing for him. But as it stands, as a lager beer, I think this is a nice take on the style. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this review. This has been an interesting one to review. So yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Green Gold Brewing as well. You will see a few more reviews from these guys pop up over the next little while. There will be the Forbidden Fruit, and I forget what the other, there's the Povodny Moj, and there's also the Dragon Slayer. You'll see those reviews coming up at some point soon. But this one was the Hop Princess, a hoppy lager at 4.2% ABV from Green Gold Brewing in just near Celje in the Savinja Valley in Slovenia. Thank you again to Luca for making this review possible. Massive shout out to Davor, and I will catch you guys soon. Until the next time, Slanja just now, and I'll catch you guys later. Slanja, skål, and na zdravje. Cheers.